composing gloves here, and in this series we're aimed at a bunch of future bass principles. In this video in particular, we're going to be going over the sound of future bass. This is aimed at beginners and getting you to making better sounds and better music right away. So let's go ahead and jump right to it. So first things first, we're in a blank project. We're going to make our chord sound first. So we're going to name this the chord sound. There's always a big epic chord progression in general for most future bass tracks. So we're going to go after that sort of aspect of it. So I'm going to name it chords. Next up, we need some chords. Now, I'm assuming you're very new and music theory is an entire can of worms that we don't necessarily want to open right at the beginning. It can kind of set you back a little bit. Definitely be learning it in the background. But what we're going to do is we're going to use a future bass sample pack. So I've got here the future bass pop sample pack. If you go to the site and just look for sample packs, you'll find this one there. There's a bunch of different ones, and in this pack there's a bunch of kits, and in the kits they have some chord progressions. You can see because they have the 3 little chord symbols, and they tell you the key and the tempo. But this is a great way if you're brand new and you just want to focus on different aspects. I'd highly recommend just trying these out when you're starting out and then getting creative and changing them up and making your own as you go. So I'm going to grab this and just drag and drop, and it puts down the MIDI clip. Now it should be noted that the ones with the little waveforms, these are sounds, and the ones with the little piano roll notes, these are notes. They're not sounds, they're notes. So just be aware that you'll see them named chords in the sample pack. If you click like show me all the samples in this pack, it'll actually show you. And if you see some stuff labeled chords, then you know it's got some MIDI stuff in it. So having this, we've got our chords already basically selected, and we've got a Volt Mini loaded up by default. So we have this. Which, you know, that's all right. We could do a lot with this, but we're going for that big epic sound. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first get rid of the Volt Mini, and I'm going to put in the full-fledged Volt. So here's the Volt, and it's already got some saw waves and things. As a general rule, saw waves sound really good when you put them all together. They can handle a lot of notes. Some sounds, you play more than one note, they don't sound so good. Saw waves don't have this problem, and for that reason, most of the sounds you hear are actually just really clever ways of processing saw waves. So if we play this right now, it's going to sound pretty bad just because the octaves are down really low. Just to show you, you can see it's just far, far, far too low. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to bring the octave on oscillator A and B up to 0. That already sounds a lot better. Now it's got on it a filter envelope already. You're actually already hearing this filter do its thing. So this is an interesting sound. We could definitely do some stuff and change up the rhythm of the chord progression. And one way that we're going to do that, in a very popular way too, is to use an LFO. So if I were to move this filter cutoff around, you're going to hear this wobble effect. It's very common. Right, very popular effect. But we don't want to be sitting here manually moving this. First off, it sounds a little choppy. Just because of the way I'm suddenly moving things around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use something called a low frequency oscillator. So this is a thing that will move this knob up and down for me very easily. It's actually just like a regular oscillator. It's just got a very low frequency. So since it moves really slowly up and down, it makes it great for turning knobs on and off in a rhythmic kind of a way. So I've got LFO on free. There's some different modes. We're going to go ahead and stick with free. And down here, we've got some different parameters. So I'm going to give it a rate, and I'm going to give it some amplitude. So if you don't give something an amplitude, it's going to be just 0 the whole time. It's not going to do anything. So you need to give it some amplitude, and the rate's how fast. So if we now play this, you can hear it begin to do some pretty cool things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the amplitude all the way up, and I just want to show you a couple variations that we can do. So we could have a bit of a faster speed. I really liked 3.21 quite a bit. 3.2, right around there. That sounded pretty cool. I'm going to bring the amplitude down a bit. And I highly recommend messing around with this thing called FC. It stands for Frequency Cutoff. So, or filter cutoff. It might be filter cutoff. It's one of those. It controls the frequency that the filter actually does the cutoff. The more I look at it, the more convinced I am that it's filter cutoff. Doesn't matter. That's what it does. So if we move it up a little bit, you're going to notice that the sound that we get will be a bit brighter. If we come back over here. Versus if we had brought it back down again. So this opens up some really cool options for us. So if we come over here to the automation and we go to add parameters, what we can do is we can move this automatically, and that can sound really cool. It's a very easy way to add interest. So I'm going to come down. I'm going to choose, what are we looking for? We're looking for the filter, and we want to move filter 1, frequency cutoff or filter cutoff, whatever that is. So we've got that. Another thing that we might want to move is the rate. So let's come down to filter 1, LFO, rate, and LFO. Let's see here. Rate and amplitude probably be a good one to have too. So that's it for there. So what we're going to do now is now when we click on this automation, you see that we have all these other options. So I'm going to choose filter cutoff, and I'm going to start this out brighter. And then I'm going to add a point here, and then I'm going to bring it down right here. Keep it down. And I'm just sort of looking for ways that might match the phrase in an interesting way. So now if we play this, faster might be cooler. So this is something you're going to have to come in and sort of just, pick how you want it to go. So that's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and add a change to the rate. So you can see also, I didn't point this out, but the filter cutoff is moving now. So if we come back over here, you can see it moving up and down. Beautiful. Now let's go ahead and add in a modulation to the rate. And I gave the amplitude here just in case we want to do it. It's kind of easy to do everything while that list is still open. So, all right. So we've got our rate now. I'm going to go ahead and place a control here. Let's set. Let's go ahead and set this up here. Move it back here. Maybe we'll try slowing down. Maybe not that much. That's a bit high, as we learned earlier. Maybe we'll do something like this. Whoops. Control Z. Slow down a bit. Come back up. So you see, this is something that you'll just slowly you'll take your time, really get a sick rhythm going. But this is our basic rhythm that we're going to run with for now. And another thing that adds a lot of power is this envelope. So if I make the attack longer, it's going to change how quickly this LFO is allowed to affect it. So if I go ahead and bring this down to be really sharp versus something that's very long. So you hear at the beginning, it's really specifically the beginning. That's the only part where it really matters. So, and that has to do with the way we've set up the rest of the envelope. But you hear more of a ping sound at the beginning, like a bump, 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 like right away. You hear that? It just attacks right away. If I make this longer, it's going to have more of a wah sound at the beginning. So you see, if you don't like that intro sort of intense attack, you can go ahead and get rid of that with the envelope here. There's one other thing I'm going to do with this sound is I'm going to add an effect. I'm going to add a reverb. And I'm just going to leave the mix up, bring the damping and the size up, like so. Okay, one other thing that you might consider doing with the chords is you might add a compressor after. So what a compressor does, so this is a very fancy compressor. Let's go ahead and just go for a super basic, like regular old compressor, the Compressor Mini. It's got literally one knob, it's called Squash. What it does is it basically makes the softer parts and the louder parts closer together. It compresses the range from here's your soft part, here's your loud part. It's gonna push the loud stuff down and then bring everything up. And what that ends up doing is it makes it's compressed and it sounds louder in general because the average loudness, the average time it spins at the louder part has gone up. And since we're putting this after the reverb, and the reverb gets very soft after a while, this can have the effect of bringing a reverb up, which can sound very big, and sometimes it can sound, not that great. So we're gonna mix it into taste and just sort of see, hey, what does this have to offer us? So I really like what it's doing. Now it's incredibly loud, so we're gonna bring this down, sort of rein it in. So there are some basic things on laying down that chord sound, getting some interesting chords and varying it to your music. Obviously, if you had different chords, you're gonna write different automation. Subscribe and hit that bell icon for future videos, and try out Amp Studio next time you get the chance, and have a blessed day.